He had been standing at the edge of change for years, unaware that life had quietly been giving him warnings. Every choice he ignored quietly stacked against him, shaping a reality he was not ready to face. Mark Spencer was the kind of man everyone assumed had it all figured out. At 38, he had a stable job in corporate marketing, a cozy apartment in downtown Chicago, and friends who admired his confidence and steady demeanor. Yet behind his calm exterior, Mark felt a persistent emptiness, a quiet restlessness that he didn't fully understand. Each morning, he went through the motions. The same coffee at the corner cafe, the same subway ride, the same work meetings that blurred into one another. He told himself this was normal. He told himself he was successful. But deep down, Mark sensed a gnawing dissatisfaction, a subtle but persistent whisper that he was avoiding something important. He often watched people around him take bold risks, friends quitting jobs to travel, colleagues starting new businesses, acquaintances leaving relationships that no longer served them. And yet Mark stayed put. Stability is safety, he would tell himself. But sometimes, in the quiet of his apartment at night, he felt a shadow of regret creeping in. Mark's life had become a series of almost moments, almost asking for a promotion, almost reaching out to reconnect with an old friend, almost applying for a job he truly wanted. Each almost was a silent choice to ignore the turning point life was offering him. Psychologists often speak about the subtle signs of stagnation: chronic procrastination, constant distraction, mild anxiety. Mark ticked every box, but he refused to confront it. He filled his life with routines and distractions, believing that ignoring the discomfort would make it disappear. On weekends, Mark would scroll social media, seeing snapshots of lives that seemed fuller, braver, happier. The more he watched, the more the unease grew, yet he remained frozen. Deep down, he feared change more than he feared regret. One Thursday evening, Mark was invited to a casual gathering by an old college friend, Lisa. She had always been daring, adventurous, the kind of person who followed her instincts no matter how uncertain. At the gathering, Lisa shared her latest experience. She had quit her job at a comfortable firm to start a small wellness business, something she had dreamed about for years. She spoke about the fear, the uncertainty, the late nights, but also about the satisfaction, the sense of purpose, and the exhilaration of finally living on her terms. Mark listened, a tight knot forming in his chest. He could feel the weight of his own inaction pressing down on him. Lisa looked at him and said something that would stay with him long after. "Mark, the worst thing isn't failure. It's realizing too late that you ignored your own turning points." That night, Mark went home and sat in silence, replaying her words. He thought about the opportunities he had brushed aside. The night he had the chance to take a new job in a city he loved but stayed in his comfort zone. The time he wanted to travel alone but made excuses. The friendships he let fade because he was too busy or too afraid to reach out. For the first time in years, Mark considered the possibility that his life wasn't just about stability or avoiding failure. Maybe it was about embracing the uncertainty that came with real growth. The next morning, Mark woke up with a heavy mix of fear and determination. He realized that ignoring the turning point in his life had consequences he could no longer dismiss. At work, he started noticing the cracks in his routine. The projects that once excited him now felt dull. Meetings that seemed trivial before now felt like chains. And for the first time, he allowed himself to wonder, what if I could redirect my life towards something that truly matters to me? He started small. Mark reached out to a mentor he admired, asking for advice on career growth. He signed up for a weekend writing workshop, something he had postponed for years. He began journaling, something that helped him confront fears and desires he had long ignored. But with small steps came growing anxiety. He questioned his decisions constantly. Was he making a mistake? Should he stay in his stable job just a little longer? The temptation to retreat back into routine was strong. Then came the pivotal choice. A job offer arrived from a startup, a company focused on mental wellness, exactly in line with his longtime passion. The offer promised less stability and a smaller paycheck, but it was an opportunity to finally align his work with his values. For nights, he wrestled with the decision. The familiar voice of fear whispered, urging him to ignore the turning point and stay safe. But the other voice, the one that had been silent for too long, urged him to take the leap, to stop pretending that comfort equaled fulfillment. Eventually, Mark accepted the offer. The first months were chaotic, full of uncertainty, mistakes, and long nights. But slowly, he felt alive in a way he hadn't felt in years. He realized that the turning point he had once ignored was now shaping his future. Mark's story isn't about dramatic success or instant transformation. It's about the quiet, invisible moments where life nudges us toward choices that matter, and the cost of ignoring them. Psychologists often describe these moments as existential nudges, subtle signs that a decision needs to be made. Ignoring them leads to a slow erosion of potential, a life that feels safe but unfulfilled. Mark learned that fear is always present at a turning point. Fear whispers that the unknown is dangerous, but growth, fulfillment, and self-realization rarely happen in the absence of risk. The lesson is simple. Notice the nudges, however small. Reflect deeply on your choices. The path of comfort may feel safe, but it is often the path of quiet regret. True self-awareness begins when we recognize the moments we've been avoiding and choose courage instead of fear. As Mark sits in his new office, sunlight streaming through the windows, he often thinks about the other paths he ignored, and he wonders, not with regret, but with curiosity, how different life could have been. This is where the reflection lingers for every listener. What turning point are you quietly ignoring right now? And if you continue to ignore it, what will your life feel like 5 years from now? Sometimes the most profound shifts in life happen not through dramatic events, but through the small conscious choices we make to face the turning point we once avoided.